Hey, Krista.
Hey, Sarah.
We're back for season 2, baby.
Right? Who would have thought we'd be back for another one?
I know. We still have so many things to talk about.
So I guess I'll see you Tuesday?
Hey, Krista.
Hey, girl.
What's up?
Oh, just it's that time of year where we're kind of doing all the things all at the same time.
Tell me about it.
I know,
I
right?
think that's a really good segue into exactly what we're talking about.
Pretty much. I mean, the irony is I actually feel a bit stressed about this episode and how poignant, given that we're going to talk about feeling stressed out and what that looks like, but really how that manifests as just feeling incredibly overwhelmed and what we experience in our personal life, what we experience in our professional life, and kind of how those things overlap on each other.
Like, where do we even begin?
I always like to start with a stat to validate our feelings, right? It's not only about our feelings, it's about the facts. Statistics show that chronic stress affects approximately 80% of the population, leading to various health issues. So we're not alone.
The world population?
They didn't specify. So of those surveyed or polled,
but still, 80% is 80%, and that's a lot of people that stress is affecting.
Well, exactly. So, I mean, basically what it means is that we are having to do a lot of things and we don't feel like we can accomplish all of these things given the time that we have. And it's bringing up feelings for us of feeling overwhelmed, which is like anxiety, racing thoughts, emotional outbursts, whatever that looks like, where we're just like, I can't figure it all out. I can't decide. I can't function. And it's probably good that we're talking about this topic at this point in the year, because this is like one of the top times of year where people do feel overwhelmed. Holiday season.
That damn holiday season where it's supposed to be like happy and cheerful, but like in reality, it's just like a stress, anxiety disaster.
Yeah, it just feels like a lot of tasks that have to be completed in a short period of time. And just to clarify for the listeners who are probably all over the world, for us, holiday season means Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. We're coming into that time of year for us. So we're starting to pack away the Halloween costumes, pack away the Halloween candy, and start to make plans.
It is very stressful because, like you said, you have so much to do in a very small amount of time. It's also a financial stress as well. Like, people want to, buy the perfect gift for somebody. And there's not enough time in the day to see everyone you want to see, get everything done. And should I even talk about Santa Claus, aka Mom Claus? There is so much at Christmas time that I don't want to say primary parent, but it usually lands on one parent to get all the gifts, get the stockings, do all the things. So it's a lot, as well as go to work, have a life, sleep, eat,
I'm glad that you called that out. There is pressure to buy gifts and have that all planned and accounted for. If you have families, you're planning gatherings, you're hosting gatherings, you're trying to accommodate other family gatherings or things that you're invited to at the same time and meet expectations. And then at work, you have your end of year stuff that you have to complete. Another thing that I want to briefly call out is that this time of year is also stressful in the workplace because that's where a lot of reduction in force happens. So there's always that issue of am I secure in my job? Will I be able to buy Christmas presents? That's a real factor for stress for people as well. And
good call out.
Yeah.
And can we just take a pause and why do they do that at the end of the year?
I don't know. I mean, the flip side is, would it be better at the beginning of the year? I don't really know.
No. But I just feel right before Thanksgiving or Christmas, I just think that's terrible.
It's not a good feeling. I agree. January is a slow time. Let people at least enjoy, be able to buy their family some presents. And then, a slow time for all businesses in January. So let people be able to like decompress, absorb the message, and like move on in the new year. But
Yeah.
it always comes down to finances from a work perspective, right? They didn't meet budget this year, didn't make enough money. They want to expense something. They, expensing, laying off people, whatever that looks like, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then when that happens, there's always like holiday parties as well for work. And then there's holiday parties for friends, and then seeing family, and then doing the food prep and getting everything together. Like, oh my gosh, the list is literally endless. Now that I'm an adult and I'm a mom of two, it's too much.
Well, you've been adult for a while.
And the fact, right, exactly. And the fact that like businesses and companies want you to work over the Christmas break, it's like, no. There should be like a law that says between Christmas and New Year's,
there's a shutdown.
Everything shuts down. Because like, honestly, do people actually get work done between that time? No.
Not really.
Come on.
And just for some of the listeners, I want to clarify that some businesses have to stay open all the time, every day, holiday season included. So we completely acknowledge that. But what we're saying is there are lots that don't. So why are we being forced to go into the office when everybody's on vacation anyway? Why do people have to use their vacation time over Christmas? Why isn't it just...
And yeah, exactly. And stress people out even more.
Yeah. Because now all of a sudden all these end of year deadlines happen, and you happen to be the only person that didn't have vacation that you could take during Christmas. So then the deadlines and all of that completion like falls on you. Awesome.
It's so well with and you know what? Over the Christmas break, guess what? Kids aren't at daycare. Kids aren't at school. So where are your kids going? And if you have to work, like that's just an additional stress that you have to like figure out who's watching your kids during that time.
That is a really good point.
AKA, you're going to have to like put money towards that as well.
Valid. I don't think about that because I luckily don't have children. Basically, we're at the beginning point of just being like supposed to be the happiest, but also worst time of the year. Because you have to put on a happy face, but you feel completely overwhelmed and overextended.
Yeah, absolutely. During that time, I'm usually pretty overwhelmed and stressed. And I'm pretty happy once Christmas is over. Not that I don't love it to see it through my kids' eyes, but there's a lot to do. And I want to make it special for them.
Have you started Christmas shopping?
No, Kristen.
Well, I don't know. You pack ahead of time. I figured maybe you had started like putting stuff away for Christmas. I don't. I probably am good with Christmas shopping, actually. I get it done little by little.
Oh, did you? Yeah, okay. I lied. Maybe some of these stockings are done. And like that's it.
Okay. Okay, girl. You see? Okay. Yeah, there's that type A that I know so well. I'm a strategic type B. Luckily, anybody I'm buying for is so old now that it always comes, gifts are in the form of money. You still have little small kids to buy for, so that looks a little bit different. And to go back to your earlier point, anyone who has a more focused director of operations role in their household is having to do a lot of that heavy lifting, I'll just say. Who's ever in charge of the operations of the household is playing Santa Claus, is doing all the gifts, is buying all the groceries for the family gatherings. They're handling all of that stuff at home.
Like, just talking about it makes me stressed out and tired.
Yes, same. I feel a little anxiety by proxy. I don't even have to do all the stuff you have to do. Not to discriminate on the other stressful times of the year, but just to call them out because other people may feel differently about certain times of the year. Other notable times that people report to feel overwhelmed is back to school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Tax season, which is what we get to look forward to in the new year, I guess. I don't know if for Canadians that's really a big thing, but I think for Americans and the IRS they don't play with that kind of stuff. I think for them maybe it feels a little bit different. One I found surprising was seasonal changes in the season stress people out.
I guess that's not one of my stressors, but there's definitely things that I need to think about being a parent. Like, do the kids have clothes for the colder weather? Do their boots still fit? Do their snowsuits still fit? Like, things like that I need to think about before it drastically changes to cold weather.
That's a good point. You've given me a little bit of a moment to reflect. So I think for me, what would probably create like a feeling overwhelmed, or maybe not like overwhelmed, but like a bit of depression is like maybe winter blahs for us that get all 4 seasons, right? Like that's a real thing.
Yeah. Like, we know right now that we're like just starting winter. And that's just depressing. Like, we're just starting it. Like, we still have like so many months to go. Like, yeah, that is,
Well, we're not there.
overwhelming. It's not stressed. No, but
Just like dipped our toe in fall.
yeah, but it's like we know it's coming and we know it's long. So it's a little depressing.
And that brings on its own stressors of cold weather, worrying about getting sick, driving in the snow, driving in bad weather, shoveling, all of that kind of stuff. It's just a whole new suitcase of emotional baggage. Just to tie up all the other kind of things that stress people out, work deadlines throughout the year, even end of year deadlines. I know I have a couple that kind of are keeping me up currently at night. And one that we've touched on kind of indirectly is like personal milestones, like life events that are happening in people's lives, moving, getting married, getting divorced, having a baby, all those kind of changes. Those events obviously are big stressors for people too.
And I'll add on to that. Job loss, increased financial obligations, caring for an elderly or sick parent, a traumatic event, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on.
I think you had some interesting insights in terms of like countries that are reporting more stress than others. Is that true?
Yes, I do. Do you want to hear them? Well, this is what Google's telling me, okay? What do you think is the most stressed country today?
I would
like right now.
say the U.S.
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
I had no idea. Yeah, no idea.
What continent is it in? I would feel that places that have very homogenized cultures would have less stress because the expectation is we all work the same way in the same capacity. But then if you say it's not U.S., is it somewhere like Japan or somewhere where it's like they work crazy hours?
No.
Oh my God.
I was shocked. Okay, so for some reason there's two, which was like really confusing. So I have two on this list. So I have number one is Afghanistan. Negative emotions have reached record levels. So Gallup found in its 2022 Global Emotions Report, Afghanistan leads the world in least positive and most negative experiences. So I guess people are just very stressed.
Well, they've been enduring basically decades of like war and conflict. So that would make sense.
And then I'll just say the least stressful country is Finland.
That there's going to be some kind of, you were going to tell me like Iceland, Finland, Netherlands, Denmark, like that's kind of what I figured would end up being.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like that one kind of makes sense. I feel like Finland is on like all like the like happiest country and like the well balanced country or like whatever. Like they're on like those types of lists. So like that makes sense that they're the least stressful country. Maybe we should move there, Krista.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know a lot about Finland. I imagine that their government structure is probably very socialist dominant. So it's like everybody doesn't have to worry about some of the same things that we have to worry about where, there's certain tiers of education that are free, healthcare that are free, like takes away a lot of those stresses that we have from like a financial perspective. I'm making an assumption. I don't actually know.
Yeah. And then what do you think is most stressed out age?
I feel like somewhere in your mid to late 30s.
So no.
Ooh, wait, we just talked about finding happiness and the parabola of happiness being 23 and 69. Oh my God.
Well, okay, so I have two. So I have one for stress, I have one for anxiety because it's different.
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah.
So according to Cigna International Health's 2023 survey of almost 12,000 workers around the world, 91% of 18 to 24-year-olds report being stressed. Are you kidding me? Research indicates Gen Z are emerging as the most stressed demographic in the workplace and struggling to cope. Isn't that interesting? I was like, okay. And then for anxiety, they're saying that adults ages 30 to 44 have the highest rate of anxiety.
That nail on the head for me. Yes.
1,000%, right? And then with around 23% of people this age group reporting an anxiety disorder within the past year, which I'm surprised that number is not a little higher.
Literally, because I can't tell you, like, if I think of all the friends that I kind of communicate with in a semi-regular basis, they're all on some type of medication for anxiety.
Right. Right. And just talk about anxiety. I know there's lots of different genders out there, but what gender do you think is most affected by anxiety?
Given the amount of hormones in a biological female's body that creates a lot of turmoil in the physicality of a woman's body and in their mental, I would assume that it was female, biological female.
Correct. That's correct.
And I'm not saying that I don't know what it's like to be a male and that has its own stressors too. So I don't downplay that, but yeah, I could see how that makes sense. Can I go back to Gen Z for a moment and like feeling the most stressed, or the ages being like 18 to 24? Because I have opinions about it, and just like interacting with my nieces and nephews who are probably a part of that demographic. It's very interesting to me that what they think is stress, I think also what needs to be clarified is like, what is stress? What does stress look like for somebody that's in their 30s versus like somebody who's like going into like late teens, early 20s? It looks very different.
Yeah.
And everything at that age feels like it's the end of the world. But I also understand
Absolutely.
going into college and university, you feel like you need to make a decision that's going to impact the rest of your life.
Well, they put pressure on you that makes you feel like that.
Sure. Because that's the expectation. Like, if you're going to go to college or university, what are you going there for? Like, otherwise you're just wasting money. You're not going there to like figure it out. It costs you damn much.
Exactly. But I remember when I was in high school and university and college, and I was very stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking like, I can't, there's nothing will top this. Adult Sarah laughs at younger Sarah.
Well, it's the beginning of dipping your foot into adulthood where your actions have consequences. So you don't want to do well in school. It's not like high school or elementary school. This costs money.
Yeah.
And that is a big, scary thing for those that are younger. What I do find, and it's only anecdotal, is that they aren't willing to do the same level of work to like maybe compromise their work-life balance. Like, I grew up in the generation where you needed to put in the hours, put in the time, blood, sweat, and tears to prove yourself. But also, nothing was handed to me, so I had to become independent, and then that built resiliency. Now, when I see with these younger generations, only the ones that I interact with, obviously, is these same people that I grew up with are helicopter parents. So there's this sheltering of these kids now. So they can't, as my mom would say, 7 or 11. They can't do things on their own, or the idea of doing it freaks them out so much that they're like, I need a mental health day. And it's like, you haven't even left the house and moved out on your own or buy your own groceries. You don't even pay your own cell phone bill.
No, that's so true though, because my mom told me that when I was in like kindergarten or grade 1, I walked to school by myself. And it was a good like 10, 15 minute walk. And I like didn't believe her. I was like, no, I didn't. And she's like, yeah, you walked to school by yourself. You were fine. And then I tell other people, maybe a little older than me, that have kids that are in elementary school, that story. And they're like, oh my God, I would never let my kid walk to school like that.
So true.
And valid, times have changed. But I think people are more, they got their nails in their kids a little bit more.
And I'm guilty of it too. Like, my sister lets her youngest walk to and from school every day, and he's not a baby. But I'm always like, oh, he can walk for those 7 minutes by himself?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in first grade and second grade, I had a key to the house. If my parents forgot to pick me up, which happened, I would walk home and let myself in the door. But it's a different time. So I'm guilty. I'm guilty of that same mentality of like, these new generations need to be protected.
And like you were talking about, we have different stressors in different ages. And I have something that says an older millennials, so like age 35 to 44, are the least likely to say they feel financially well, according to the Bank of America's 2023 report.
I just read an article today that said the same thing, that they financially do not feel well off.
Yeah, exactly. Which that makes sense. Right?
Yeah. I guess it's interesting to be in that age demographic. It's very interesting when I reflect back of like what I thought a good salary was coming out of school versus what people are starting off as their starting salary now as recent graduates. I'm like, that's a big difference. Like, millennials or Gen Zers don't think making $100,000 a year is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the perspective is so different. So if that's the barometer, yes, people 35 to 44, I'd be like, I should be making $250,000 a year. Why am I not doing that? I'm failing.
Truly. Seriously. And it just everything, all the prices are going up too. So it's just like, this is not adding up. Like, what is going on? I do have a specific stat in the US. The American Psychology Association, the APA, people age 18 to 33 in that age group suffer the highest level of stress in the US. They don't say what stress, they just say stress.
My hypothesis is that colleges and universities are significantly more expensive than in Canada. So like a year's worth of tuition is in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Or more than that now. I think the average is probably like 30,000, depending if you're going to in-state or out-of-state school, where I think average tuition in Canada per year is maybe like between 10 to 15, depending on where you're going. So, which is still a lot of money, but like it's people, I want to say kids are not kids, but young adults are coming out of college in severe financial debt in the US.
Yes, absolutely.
They're starting out in a hole. And then at the age of 24 or whatever, you're no longer on your parents' insurance anymore.
Right.
So you need to find your own insurance and pay for that. And then you have those healthcare costs that you never thought of. So you're trying to figure all those things out during those years. So yeah, I could see how.
And then plus, if you want to have a family in the US and you want to deliver a baby in the hospital,
yeah,
and if you have like good insurance, you still have to pay out of pocket for something. So I feel like that just goes hands in hand. Like, yeah, you graduate school, perfect. And then you work a bit and maybe you find a partner, you want to have a family. And then it's just boom, it's just like more money that you have to like, I don't know, throw away.
Well, my first job out of school was doing healthcare benefits administration for U.S. companies. So that's how I became aware of their healthcare system, which is very, very different than the Canadian one. And one thing that I found is we do it here in Canada, but it looks and feels very different. They do an annual enrollment into their new benefits, right? And their new benefit plans. And there's different tiers of coverage where you can have, the cheapest amount of coverage, but you can only go to specific providers or hospitals. And then if you go out of that network, then you have to pay 100% of the cost. And then there's another tier that's like 50-50, and then there's another tier, right? So what they don't do in the US, where they are also probably focusing on parallelograms, is they don't educate people on their healthcare plans and what they should look for coverage. So every year people are trying to figure out, what do I do and how do I enroll and what's the best plan? And they have no idea. And these are things that could impact their lives financially. Like you can lose your house if you don't pay this medical bill. The medical company can put a lien against you. Like, it isn't a joke. I just saw a TikTok a few days ago where this girl's like, follow me as I give birth in a California hospital and see how much it costs me. It costs like $35,000 for her. She shows the hospital bill and she still had to pay $2,200 of that.
Yeah. And that's probably like decent insurance too, right?
Exactly. That she got the good insurance.
Yeah. And maybe she pays like private on the side. Like, who knows? Like,
oh yeah, she was in a big hospital room. It was a private room.
Yeah. But still, $2,200 is still $2,200 that could go towards something else.
Well, Sarah, you've had 2 babies. How much did you pay for those 2 babies? What did your bill look like?
Maybe like, actually, no, 0. I'm like, because
what?
I think we just paid for parking, like at the hospital, out of pocket. I think that was it. Like the room's covered under our insurance. So yeah, I think we just paid for parking at the hospital and that was it. That's all I paid for. That's all the bill that I got.
Exactly. I mean, the only thing that you maybe would have had to pay for is if you unexpectedly went into labor and had to be like rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, and then you'd get your bill for $50 later that you had to pay for the ambulance. Like that. That's at most.
But I still think that might be covered in some insurances.
Yeah, you probably claim it. Yeah, absolutely. But you're not going to like, the paramedics aren't going to like swipe your card in the thing. You have to get billed and then you have to like submit it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it says 55% of Americans are stressed during the day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But at the same time, they're resilient.
Yeah.
Because they
100%
live their lives and do what they got to do.
Well, they got to pay those bills and all those medical bills and all those tuition payments, right? So
that's the thing. Like, I think it kind of really ties into your personal life bleeds into your work life, especially depending on where you live in the world, because it matters how much money you make and the things that you have to pay for and like the division between the two. Like you want to have kids, you want to have a decent job to be able to pay for said kids. And you're, depending on where you are in the world, you don't get time off when you have those kids.
That's insane. A mother of 2? That's insane.
Right, exactly. So I think it stands to reason that nowadays, because there is no work-life balance, like one definitely always is impacting the other, that burnout is a real thing. Like being overwhelmed is feeling like sometimes it can feel like I have literally zero left in me to like get shit done.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you felt burnout?
Yeah, I think because I'm a type of person that will keep working until my body shuts me down by like getting sick or something. And depending on what's going on in my life, like it's been an intense 2 years of just a lot of stuff in my personal life that, you know, I keep separate from my work life, but obviously it impacts, you know, productivity, efficiency, being present, all those things. I don't even remember where I was going with it. This is how burnt out I am. I don't even know what my point was.
So the correct answer is yes, you are currently burnt out.
I'm currently burnt out. Oh, what I was going to say is that what I do have, which I feel like is a superpower, is that in times of immense stress, I usually have a lot of adrenaline that kicks in. So the adrenaline kicks in so I can go for an extended period of time under said pressure. But then when the adrenaline drops is when I basically like, I'm down for the count.
Got it.
But I try not to feel burnt out at work anymore. That's one thing that I think I've learned in the last couple of years, that the company, as much as it can be like a family or, you know, you really want to work hard, and no disrespect, like those are important things and you want to feel valued and you want to feel passionate about your work. But the reality is if you die, Chris, it's going to go dark. If you die, they're going to feel sad for a minute and they're going to move on. So you also... They're worried about them. You need to be worried about you.
Totally. I think I read something and it was like, you were just a number to your company, but you're not a number to your family.
It's true. Or to yourself. Right? Like,
yeah, valid.
Like you need to matter to you. And I think that's one of the insights that I realized when I stopped, like, I don't want to say caring about work, but not like giving it so much value, is that I was too attached to what people thought of me at work and the validation being something I needed to work towards. Once I started to think like, it really just matters what I think of me. You know, I'm not going to be disrespectful or lazy at work, but people are going to think what they want to think anyway. People are going to promote who they want to promote anyway. I need to just do what I need to do so that I can feel okay every day.
And that's good. And I think in my work life, I'm trying to get there. I'm like on the path to getting there.
Yeah.
I'm still a people pleaser. I'm less of, but I'm still a people pleaser. I'm trying to set like boundaries.
It's good.
And I'm trying to like say no sometimes too, because guess what? You're allowed to say no.
It's hard. It's hard when there's like that carrot that's on the end of it that you know that you're like, will I suffer somehow with opportunities or something later by saying no? So it's strategic. You still have to be very strategic about it.
Yeah.
Though I do have moments now where I feel jealous and wish I could be more like Stanley from The Office, where he's like, it's 5:00. I'm going home. I don't care. I don't want to go out with anybody.
Yeah.
You people aren't my friends.
Yeah.
Truly.
Well, valid. But, you know, Stanley in The Office, when he goes home, he's done. But nowadays, when we go home, guess what? Yeah. Emails on our phone. We can bring our laptop home. Like, it's always there and it's never really off. Like, when you take a vacation day or a vacation week, Krista, do you set boundaries or do you do you check your emails?
You're asking me a really interesting question, knowing that I just took some time off of work. I do check my emails. I do.
Did that stress you out or no?
It hasn't stressed me out this week, but there was once upon a time when it would. But I think just because of the nature of the business that we worked in together, that it's just habitual for me to check work emails and be able to access my work email on my phone. That will be a hard habit for me to break, if I'm being honest.
Well, and to be honest, I'm the same thing. I like to know what's going on, regardless if I'm on vacation or not, regardless if I'm in another country or not. I will still check my emails just to stay abreast as to what's happening, even though I'm not there.
Or if something goes like crazy and you can still send an email to basically create the solution so it's not a bigger problem when you get there, guess what? I'm going to deal with it right then and there. I'm going to send back the email being like, do A, B, and C.
Yeah. But still, like, there's that work-life balance.
Yeah. Well, it's understanding of like what is an emergency and what can wait.
Totally.
Because the reality is, you could give blood, sweat, and tears, and they could still decide at the end of the year that they want to go in a different direction and they want to, realign teams and create different, rename teams to make it, oh, well, this team they were part of innovation. Now they're part of, reliability. And it just like renaming things. It's just old shit with a new name. Then all of a sudden you're not important anymore. And then you're like, really, was it worth me responding to every single email as soon as it came in my inbox, knowing at the end of the day, I'm not a part of their strategy anymore? Yeah, those are the kind of decisions I make now where it's like, this can wait.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They don't like it. Well, good thing is I have my LinkedIn profile really updated and ready to go. So that's up to them.
Yeah.
But since we're talking about burnout, there is a stat that says that over 50% of employees experience burnout. I find that a quite low number.
I was going to say that it's a lot lower than I thought. I was going to say maybe like 70%, but
yeah, I have to piggyback onto that. A Gallup study found that 23% of employees reported feeling burned out at work very often or always, while an additional 44% felt burnt out sometimes. So then 67% of them either feel completely burnt out or sometimes burnt out.
Sometimes. Got it. It makes sense. It's hard to juggle work. It's hard to juggle your personal life. It's hard to juggle all your responsibilities as an adult. Also work out. Also eat well. Also get your X amount of hours of sleep. So of course you're going to feel overwhelmed and you're going to feel stressed at times.
And it's really hard to find a solution that's actually tangible, because people are like, well, you just need to be present. You just need to have a schedule. You just need to get 8 hours of sleep. Okay, but what if I can't fall asleep, Susan? Like, what do I do?
Yeah, exactly.
What if I have so many thoughts I can't be present because I'm thinking about the deadline? They seem like simple answers, but they're actually very nuanced and complicated. And it's not, it's not a one-shot solution.
No, or like when people tell you, oh, it's okay, just relax. Like, thanks.
All the thoughts I had, that never came into my mind once. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
All of my problems have been solved.
Just by relaxing.
I think also we kind of are touching on it, like the workday is longer because we do look at our work emails on the weekends, after hours, replying to it. So there is no separation between work and home.
Yeah.
And that has a mental toll. One of the things that I struggle with at work is always having to make decisions, like decision fatigue, or not even make decisions, come up with ideas. Okay, we got to innovate. We're going to have a whole day strategy session where we're just going to brainstorm. Okay, and then now you need to go into this training so you can be a better leader. Guess what we do in the training? You're in breakout groups where you got to brainstorm again. And it's like, do you think Steve Jobs had this amount of brainstorming he needs to do in a day? Like, homeboy, pickings are slim. Like, pick one. Like, I can't give you ideas all day, every day, and then come into kids and then give them solutions, and then, figure out solutions for my own life with my family and my spouse or whatever. Like, it's draining.
It's draining. And that's why people, have anxiety attacks or panic attacks, because they get to a point and then they just, explode, or something happens or whatever.
Because they bottom out, because you need to recharge. Even an athlete has to have resting and recovery in their schedule in order to have like optimal performance. And that doesn't translate into the working life. They're like, no, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. And it's like, but that's not how you get to like Olympic level results.
Yeah, they want you just to stay on the hamster wheel, right?
Yes. I think also it's an interesting topic nowadays because it's getting a lot of attention, is the idea of remote work and be able to work remotely. And a lot of companies enforcing like RTO policies of returning to the office. And how I don't have a stat that supports it, or do I? I think I have a kind of stat that's that people felt more balanced when they were able to work remotely versus going into the office. And
absolutely. When everyone was forced to work from home, then they realized, oh shit, I don't need a commute. I can throw in a load of laundry between my meetings.
Yeah.
I can be present with my kids in the morning, and I can, I don't have to pick them up at 6 p.m. right when daycare closes. Like, there's so many benefits to working from home.
And cost benefits too. I think organizations and corporations are like, well, it's collaboration and people who stay home are lazy. And it's like, but you as an executive get to park every day in your premium spot that's underground. You don't need to like scrape your car off in the winter to get home. You probably get a bit of a budget to like that helps cover your gas and all that. Other people have to pay that. These are costs. You know, but I can't afford a nanny like, you know, the CEO of Yahoo or something who's like leaning in bullshit. It's like, daycare is expensive. It is really, I can only assume, but it's like, these are all costs that add to stresses. So of course, people who are making that type of money that have to have those type of expenses want to be at home.
Yeah, exactly. But now, like you said, companies are gently forcing employees back into the office, and employees are saying, why?
Exactly. Like, oh, but look, you can have your own locker and you can sit at this long table beside everybody else
And like start my day then, like pass.
It's like I get to drive in a minimum hour and a half of traffic every day, of which I can't do anything but be in traffic. It's not like I can work while I'm driving.
Right. And then like you're starting your day off stressed. You're in traffic or your train is delayed or whatever. Like you're going into the office and you're already like tense.
Yeah.
Like that's a great way to start your day.
Something's happened, you're stressed because you want to get there on time. Like there's been a couple times where I was stressed because like I thought I had left early enough and then I thought I was going to be late and then I have a meeting right as soon as I get in the door, so I'm scrambling. Now open concept, I don't even have a desk anymore, so now I need to figure out where I'm going to sit, remember where I'm sitting. It's like parking a car every day. I need to remember where I'm sitting for the day. I need to remember where I park my car for the day. These are all decisions and things in our mind that people take for granted at a certain level in their career, where it's like, I don't have executive status, I don't got a driver. I need to like account for these things all in my mind. And there's only so much that can go up here in my old age, right? Like at this point, info is checking out and dementia is checking in. So we got to be careful.
But it's so true. And also like, I'm going to go back to the family. It's like, oh, does my kid need to bring anything to school? Oh, I got to pack their lunch. Got to make sure they have a water bottle. Oh, is it a spirit day at school? Okay, they need to wear blue and white. I got to remember to do that. Like, there's so many things you have to remember. And like, by the time I get to the office, like I'm already like, is it 5 yet? I'm exhausted. Like, I've
you also have to pack. You got to pack your own lunch because you can't afford to buy your lunch every day.
No.
Bills to pay. So you got like, children to raise.
Exactly. So it's like by the time you even get to work, you're tired. You're like, I'm done. Like my body, my stress, I'm done. Thank you.
A Microsoft study found on average remote workers worked 4 more hours per week during the pandemic than they did before. So I know that those type of studies are always suppressed, but the reality is if you give people control over their schedule and you've hired quality, competent people, they will do the work.
Yeah. Well, I believe it, right? You have more time because you're not commuting. So that gives you like a few hours on each end, you know, and if you like what you're doing and you have some things to do in the evening, then you'll open up your laptop, you'll work on some things in the evening. But when you're like at work and you have to be present and you have to commute in and you have to have meetings with people, like that's just exhausting.
Well, yeah, because it's one thing is like you don't have control over your schedule, and some people are better working at different times of the day. And, granted, it doesn't work in every situation. So I'm not saying, but because I have to commute to the office every day. Well, what if I want to commute at 11 a.m. and stay till 7 p.m.? Is that cool with you all? No, it's not. Like you expect me to get there for 8:30, leave at 5 to 5:30. And it's like, I can't be productive every single hour of that time frame. And in that work environment versus being remote, I don't have the opportunity to get up and take a mental break and put in a load of laundry or go down to the corner store and grab something real quick just to have that moment of just clearing out your mind and stuff. You're just like, I'm here at the desk, I'm here in this long table sitting with 14 other people. A lot of them are, Gen Zers who overshare. I'm being completely overstimulated by all the noise, but yeah, collaboration all the way.
Yeah, exactly. But if you like going to the office, then you do you.
Of course. I don't speak on behalf of the world population, but I just want to have control of when I go into the office and in the hours that I work. Yeah. That's the biggest thing, is that the organizations and corporations had a loss of control over that, and they're trying to rein that in slowly but surely.
Yeah.
But of course, I think we've talked about like this impacts our health, these feelings of stress and overwhelm that are downplayed by these same companies and organizations are like, we're like a family. It's like, okay, but I'm stressed out and I'm at risk for a heart attack now. So family, tell me, how are we going to work on this? Oh, well, we're not that type of family.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I just need to take some days for my health, my mental health. Okay, yeah, no problem. But can you attend this meeting? It's just like, are you listening to me?
Does anybody feel safe enough to actually say that, though, in their organization? That they, like, there's stigma still, right? Like, I've been guilty of it in my younger years where somebody said I need to, like, take a mental health day or I need to take a break. And I'd be like, you're weak. You should just suck it up. And now I'm like, you are smart.
Yeah, you need that break.
Yeah. But again, I definitely want to acknowledge that I'm speaking from a millennial-based mentality, and depending on your generation, people look at this very, very differently. To add on to your earlier stat about Gen Zers and their feelings of stress, a Deloitte survey of millennials and Generation Z found that 84% of respondents considered work-life balance important, and 50% said it was their top priority when evaluating job opportunities.
Yeah, I'm a millennial, and that's one of my top, let's say, 3, work-life balance. Absolutely.
I would say in recent years, it's become number 1 for me. Before, I'd be like, I'll do whatever it takes to get up the next rung of the ladder. And now, well, because I'm not all the way up there, but, I've had some movement. I'm like, yeah, I want control over my life again. I'm not willing to die on the hill for the company who doesn't ultimately care. I want to point out the same survey found that 45% of respondents were considering leaving their current job within 2 years due to a lack of work-life balance.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly.
Granted, I also want to say, if you love your work, then it doesn't feel like work and you're willing to put in the effort and the hours, right? So I want to acknowledge that. It shouldn't, if you're passionate about it, like they say, if you really love something, it's not going to feel like work, so you'll put in the hours. I acknowledge that completely. But a lot of things at work aren't filled with passion. They're filled with problems.
Yeah. It's true.
Ooh, I forgot to validate what I was saying before about working remote or having control of my schedule. A survey, because I love stats, by Owl Labs reported 77% of full-time employees want the option to work from home at least once per week.
Only once?
I know, right? Well, maybe the US is counted in this. I'm not really sure. Like, a lot of companies now are doing the 3-2, where it's like 3 days you have to be in the office. Some are still being like, 1 to 2 is fine.
Yeah.
But 5 days, like, let's just acknowledge that that's just not going to happen unless you're in some kind of position where you have access to really personal and private information that can't leave the building. Then yes, obviously you got to go in. But otherwise, 5 days a week, no, let's give up on that dream. It's never going to happen.
Well, for the corporate world, but further, there are some positions that you need to go in, obviously. But absolutely.
Yes. Some you have to physically be there. Like, you're providing a physical service that requires, I completely acknowledge that.
Yeah, exactly. I think, I just want to add one more thing. It could be about work, but it's mostly about personal life. I think a lot of people nowadays, this is just what I think, are having a lot of financial stress. There's a lot of, inflation is real. You go to the grocery store and you look at the prices and you're like, blueberries are $6.99 for a pack of like the smallest little basket of blueberries. And you even look at real estate too. Like, real estate is insane. Like, the interest rates are out of control. So I think people are having a lot of financial stress right now.
I think that's really good that you brought that up, that everything is being amplified and the things that are making us feel overwhelmed, be that just living our day-to-day lives is becoming expensive. And it's something that you just need to consider more than ever, where you're watching for gas prices to drop. You are looking around for the best deals on groceries because of cost of living has increased. Everything is more expensive. That all requires brain power.
Yeah.
You can never shut off. You can't just go into a grocery store and pick up a couple of items.
No.
You need to be planful and strategic, and then figure out like where I'm going to go, what's the order I'm going to go in to like maximize the deals. And maybe this is, maybe it's for those that have a little bit more estrogen that, we're wired to be that way. But it all requires brain power that adds to the idea of overwhelm, because it's not just an easy errand anymore.
No, it's not. I will, depending on where I am, like what store I'm at, I'll go down most of the aisles and see what's there. Maybe I don't need something right now, but if that thing is on sale, you better believe I'm going to be picking that up.
Do you pick up more than one when it's on sale?
No. It depends what it is, but no, not usually.
But yeah, I don't know what's feel like sale again.
Yeah, exactly. And then even going into like the holidays, like, you know, people want to provide and they want to have big celebrations, holiday celebrations, New Year's celebrations. They want to buy, you know, great gifts. But then again, that's an additional like financial stress. And then when the new year rolls around, you look at your credit card and you may or may not faint.
I know. But hopefully you have a good loyalty program, so it helped lessen the blow a bit. It's like, I'm going to cash that in for my vacation in a few weeks. So we've talked about work, and we definitely have identified that work is a stressor and a form of overwhelm, and it's seeping into other aspects of our lives like a poison. But also it shows up for us physically too, right? Like we have physical manifestations of stress. And I think you wanted to talk about a couple of those things.
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot.
No,
I don't want to. I will.
Well, I feel like I'm going on tangents, so I want to give you the floor.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess a personal story would be there was a time in my life I was really stressed out. I'm not sure what was the cause. I think it might have been work. And I was getting like panic attacks, like full-blown panic attacks. Like,
yeah,
I was sweating, I was shaking, shortness of breath. I had like a chest pain, dizziness, like tingling. Like it was, I was like not having it. So I needed to find methods to kind of bring me down back because everything is rising and you can feel everything rising. And I really needed to find different ways to cope. So one thing that really helped me, and this for some reason it happened in the winter, I would go with my husband and we would go for a walk like at 1 a.m. in downtown Toronto. Yeah. And the cold air, like we were living in the city at this point. And the cold, fresh air like hitting me and the distraction of the lights and the people and the cars and the buildings just distracted me from inside of my brain. And then I eventually came down. Like that helped me when I was like really feeling like I was losing control in that moment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can do all the breathing exercises, but when you're having an actual attack, not a lot is going to like help you.
It's true. That's why the reality is, in situations where people are acting out of panic, like you literally got to slap them across the face because you just got to like knock that emotion right out of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my dad on blast, but I mean, my dad has lived a very wild life, but in his, I don't want to say, maybe 20s, maybe 30s, I don't know, when he was swimming in the ocean with one of his buddies back home, like many moons ago. And I guess his buddy's not a very strong swimmer and he was like drowning or something. And my dad is a swimmer, so he's trying to save him. And his friend was like freaking out. So then he's like, well, shit, he's going to drown the both of us. So he had to like pop him in his face to knock him to like basically get him to calm down to save the both of them. Because in that moment, telling them take a deep breath and all that, it's not going to work. You have to basically slap the shit out of them being like, get it together. And they're like, wait, what? Okay, yes. And that slap of cold air in your face is what you needed in that moment to kind of shake you out of it.
Yeah. And you need to find what works. Like if you feel like you're having a really stressful time, you need to find outlets that work for you. Maybe it's going to exercise. Maybe it's getting more sleep. Maybe it's like eating. Maybe it's talking to someone, staying hydrated, setting boundaries, doing meditation, like whatever it is. If you're feeling super anxious, what else do they recommend? Seeking help, seeing a therapist, trying like mindfulness exercises, changing your perspective, like
I think also, I don't think we got to touch on it. Like there's signs and symptoms of experiencing stress that maybe people don't recognize. Like you're saying you had a panic attack and maybe that for you was the first time you realized that like something was amiss. But there's probably things that we can do to kind of like get like mental and physical checks of ourselves being like, well, this is something I'm noticing about myself. Maybe I need to like reevaluate what's going on in my life that might be driving this behavior.
Yep, exactly. You have to do the 3 R's for anxiety. Recognize, regroup, redirect.
Ah, super helpful. Okay. I was like, rest, relaxation, and retire.
That works too. But that's a good one. We should write that on a shirt.
Yeah. Mert.
But I think as a whole, I'm just a stressful person in general. I think with having my kids, for some reason, I've become a little less stressed because I just don't have time or energy to stress.
Sure. And your
like I was having
greater. It's about your kids.
Yeah, true. I worry the same, maybe even more. Overwhelm, I don't know, maybe the same, but I feel like I'm definitely a little less stressed, which is weird, but I am.
No, that actually makes sense. I think when we talk about the tools or techniques, what happens as we get older, if we're doing that kind of reflection, is we get to create our own version of not sweating the small stuff. So some things that would have been like major stressors for us now aren't, they don't have as much importance. So we've deprioritized what they are in our lives, where it's like, well, I didn't get it done, or, I didn't do this thing. And it's like, but, it's more important that I'm present for my family.
Totally.
So I think, that part changes. So there's always that aspect of managing your time with what is valuable to you and prioritizing those things. And then you touched on, as well as like working on being present in the moment, or like taking that deep breath, or getting slapped in the face, or going out. Like, you need to be able to recognize and regroup to figure out like how to get yourself back on track. But also, I think what we didn't really touch on is if you can't, you should have a support system that helps you do so, whether it's friends or family, or even like from a professional perspective, right? We don't have all the answers, but there's professionals out there that can probably help get us there.
Yeah.
Other things that I think we both talked about is like setting boundaries and learning to say no to things. Like you said, you're a people pleaser. Those things will kill you if you let them. You have to like basically put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I'm guilty of it. Overstimulation of like being on my phone or on the TV or on the computer. Like, one of my rules that I've done that's been helpful for me in terms of like sleeping is like, I don't turn on my TV in my room, or I'm in a dark room right before I go to bed. So I'm not having other stimulus there that like keeps me up at night.
Yeah. It's hard though. It's hard to shut off your brain, right?
Yeah.
At least I find it hard to shut off your brain, especially if you're having a really stressful time or you're in a overwhelming situation.
100%, which I think is why sometimes like doing an activity, I know that when I'm really stressed about something or it's like invading my mind, I need to like pace back and forth. So like whatever that looks like for the person, where it's like, if something is gnawing at you and you feel like you're like crawling out of your skin, like get some physical movement going in some way to help work through whatever it is. Like for you, it was that walk at 1 a.m. Like that can help reset probably your circadian rhythm and kind of bring you down a couple of levels, of course. Nothing is a complete fix. And depending on how severe the situation is, obviously, if you need medical care, then seek it. But that activity may be helpful for some people. One thing that I thought was interesting that I have here in my notes, but maybe that you and I have kind of talked about indirectly, is reevaluating your purpose and like where you are in terms of like the type of job you have, and looking at other development opportunities either in learning or courses to maybe making a switch in your career. It's not possible for everybody, and there's probably like little steps you can take, but sometimes it's just making that decision to be like, you know what, in this industry it's burning me out and I want to try and like switch gears or consider doing that. And sometimes that can be something to consider that I don't think a lot of people consider. It's like, well, this is what I've been doing my whole life and I need to keep doing it. And it's like, but you don't, if you can, right? Like you want to, if you have the brain power, look at other creative solutions or new paths to take.
Or even a new job altogether, right? If your job is like a huge stressor in your life, just find a new job.
Well,
I know it's tough, but
there's probably some value in saying like, really considering if changing your job or your career meant that you had to take a pay cut, but you were able to have less of a commute time, be able to like do something that didn't completely burn you out. You have to do that calculation and figure out what the trade-offs are that work best for you. I know for me, I made a change early in my career, took a pay cut, and then it's worked out for me as a result. I was in the hole back then, but I did that because I didn't want to be in the industry that I was in.
Right.
Do I have new stresses? Yeah, but that's a whole different story. That's a whole other podcast episode.
How do you manage those stressors when they pop up?
I don't. Honestly, I don't. That's the honest answer.
But you said you pace.
I pace, yeah. But it doesn't help me. It helps. It creates a bit of an outlet for the emotion. But until that deadline happens or passes, I'm going to still be in that state. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
All I can do is just like having a child that's maybe throwing a tantrum or something that's like overstimulated. I'm just trying to tire myself out. Right?
Yeah.
Like it for whatever reason, that behavior doesn't change as we get older. I'm like, I'm high strung. I just need to pace and pace and pace until I tucker myself out, or, go for a run or go for a walk. Or weights probably aren't something that I want to do when I feel like very anxious, but some kind of regular activity of like robotic momentum for some reason helps a little bit. Or you have friends that are really like, I'm freaking out. I need you to talk me off the ledge.
Yeah, good one. Yeah. I rely on my friends a lot. And I know it's bad, but sometimes I turn to food too. Right? I'll have, a few too many cookies that night if I'm feeling a little stressed or overwhelmed about something.
Or an alcoholic beverage.
Or sure.
But I had a moment where I was like feeling a bit tuckered out from the week. It was one of those weeks, and had some Baileys on ice. And I'm not going to lie, it definitely helped me. Now, I don't want to do that every time I have that emotion. Exactly.
Well, yeah, exactly. Everything in moderation.
Yeah. There should be more healthier things where you're not relying on it. That's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like companies should have more mental health days for people, and people are going through it.
Literally. One of the companies that I worked at had the first Friday of every month was a mental health day. So depending on where you worked in the organization, obviously you still have to like work. And to be quite frank, I never got to take that first Friday off, but I felt like my calendar was a lot less busy or full because a lot of the other parts of the areas of the business would be off, so that I wouldn't have a lot of meetings, and I would have a little bit more control over my calendar. But it's acknowledging that like life is extremely demanding.
Yeah, I feel like it's just gotten more and more demanding.
Totally. So when you're saying like companies need more mental health days, what I do notice is that companies give you less and less sick days, which I find incredibly interesting. Like they'll be like, yeah, we provide like such great vacation and time off policies. We give you 2 sick days for the year. 2 sick days?
Wow, 2 sick days. Thank you so much.
Like I remember there'd be a time where you got like 5 to 7 or maybe 10 sick days on top of like vacation. I don't see that anymore at all. So like the expectation is you're sick, you have to work. And I'm like, okay, but if I can work remotely, I probably won't be 100% if I'm sick and I'm working, but I can probably do a little bit of something. You only come into the
What if your child is sick?
Well, that's another thing too. I think that there probably needs to be like childcare sick days or something.
Exactly, because in the months from October till April, cold and flu season like hits kids so hard.
Yeah. And it's so much easier if somebody can have like a sick kid at home and be working from home versus having to like take the day off. I mean, I know that
how old your kid is.
Yeah. I'm not saying that that's the easiest answer because like depending on how old the kid is, you probably still need to take the day off, but maybe it's only a half day or something. Like I think it just creates more flexibility.
Yeah. But do you have any other like additional tools or strategies we can provide to people?
I have some other ones here. I don't know if they're really valuable, so I'm not going to share them.
She's going to maybe that under lock and key.
Okay, I'll share them for those that maybe buy into it. I don't buy into them, but we talked about breathing techniques kind of, so that's definitely one of them. I have visualization down here as like visualizing yourself in a place where this thing that's creating this overwhelm, whether it's a task or a deadline or an event, has already happened and it was successful. That would never help me. But maybe for those listeners, it might. Positive affirmations, being like, you got this, you can handle this, I'm capable. Those things work when my friends tell me it, but not when I tell myself.
Same. Like I will tell other people that, but not myself.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm bullshitting. Like,
I know. Exactly.
Oh, one thing. Okay, 2 things that I think we've indirectly commented on is scheduling time for yourself for moments of rest and relaxation, whether get your nails done if you're a female or, have like a dinner or a brunch with some friends, like including those as priorities in your life as events so that you are giving back to yourself as well to de-stress, as long as you find those things stress-free.
Yeah. And I think I need to do that more in my life.
Oh, so do I.
That's a good tip, Krista.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say one. The other thing is to be mindful of what you're putting in your body and how you're prioritizing what you're eating, and like sleeping being like number one, because a lack of, nutrition and sleep will also create these moments of anxiety and stress and panic attacks. Like, we're literally, body is the motor and the engine. So if it's not working, like, everything's going to fall apart. I want to also say that sometimes if you're an overachiever, you create stresses for yourself. So I can say that you and I have 9 to 5 commitments, and we're doing this podcast, and it's definitely created a bit of moments of overwhelm for us because we are stretched pretty thin, but we love doing it. So it feels very different than our 9 to 5 corporate life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I was going to say something else, but I forgot.
Because you're overwhelmed.
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Well, maybe I'm going to wrap up the episode, but if you remember, we can always stop. All of our listeners, we want to hear your thoughts and opinions, as always, about your experiences, your feelings of overwhelm, tips and tricks that work for you. Again, we're a community supporting each other, so anything that's valuable to one person can probably be of value for another. So please share. If you like this episode, go ahead and follow and subscribe to us on whatever platform that you listen to our podcast on. We post some really great content on all of our social media channels, and we include links to those channels in our episode description, so you can find us very easily. Engage with us in our Q&A and polls. We ask some interesting questions, and we definitely interact with our listeners on there as well. You never want to miss an episode for us, so click on that bell icon. So as soon as we drop an episode, which happens every couple of days, you can listen to it right away.
Every couple of days.
Yeah, literally. Did I miss anything?
I think you covered it all. Yeah.
I hate to let you go, Sarah, but we'll talk again next week.
All right, Krista. I'll chat with you later.
Girl. Bye.
Bye.